Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 10, Episode 90. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being here this Tuesday, Steelers Nation. I hope everyone is staying safe and staying indoors. And Dave, I gave Kevin Colbert credit. On the last podcast, they signed Stefan Wisniewski on Thursday night. I said, Kevin, thank you. You made a signing before the podcast. I appreciate that. Gave us something to talk about on the show. And then he fooled us because right after the podcast, all hell broke loose in Pittsburgh.
Boy, you can't complain about the team not doing anything, early on in free agency here right now. I mean, just a few days in, by the time it had happened, we already had the signing of Watt, and you turn around now and we've got a few more things to talk about on top of it, and that includes the trade as well.
Yeah, so let's start with the biggest signing they've made of free agency so far, and almost certainly to be the biggest move of free agency they're going to make in general, and that is signing Eric Ebron to a 2-year, $12 million deal. And I'll admit it, Dave, I know we talked about the idea before free agency. I was really surprised by this. I did not expect this to happen. I thought the market would be too much, but Pittsburgh went crazy with the contract restructures and found a way, as they're always able to do, to make it work. So Eric Ebron to be a tight end for Pittsburgh and give them a real presence over the middle of the field.
And not only a tight end, but Eric Ebron at that, a guy that I kind of, because of his style of play and because of what he's kind of, a little bit of character background and play background on him, which we'll go over here shortly, leading up to all this, I really didn't view him as a legitimate target for the team, and really, to me, it's kind of a sort of a surprise, sort of like it was Ladarius Green a few years ago, because, Ladarius Green, to me, at least traditionally, the way the Steelers look at tight ends, he wasn't a great fit. And, obviously injuries ended up hampering him right out of the chute there, and we never really got to see what kind of player Ladarius Green could or couldn't be. But we saw, a few plays of it, but outside of that, that was it. Now they turn around and go after another tight end now in Eric Ebron, originally drafted, 2014, pedigree guy. A guy that can get up the field and all, but 2 years, $12 million. We don't have, technically that move still isn't official. The Steelers have yet to announce it. It's yet to be turned in on the NFL transaction sheet yet. This all could be related to these delay in the physicals and all like that. I'm willing to bet, especially with the Steelers, kind of hard to have them get outside free agents done right now. So it's sort of in limbo right now. There's no reason to think that this move won't go through, however, but 2 years, $12 million. Haven't seen the details, obviously, on the contract yet, but I'm betting it's going to look a lot like the 2-year, $12 million contract that Mark Barron signed almost exactly 1 year ago today. So that means, roughly a salary cap charge probably at the high side of $4 million in 2020 for Eric Ebron. I would think on the high side, I would think they're going to probably give him somewhere in the line of a $1.25 million base salary in 2020, a $5.5 million roster or signing bonus to sign. That would put him at about earning $6.75 million in total in 2020, with the rest of the money being obviously in 2021. So is he worth, if you want to look at this thing as roughly a 1 year, $6.75 million deal, we'll find out.
What you're definitely getting is someone that can make plays, middle of the field, downfield, 2 areas where this team got no production last year. Yes, in part due to injuries to Juju and obviously the quarterback situation, but still Ebron's going to be a big boost there in the red zone. You wrote an article about it the other day, about the red zone threat he's going to bring. Since 2017. He's sixth among all tight ends in red zone touchdowns, largely aided by a huge, explosive 2018 season where he had 13 touchdowns total, but still a guy that certainly can win in the red zone Pittsburgh last in red zone offense in 2019. So there's certainly upside to it, and there certainly will be a tangible benefit to signing Eric Ebron. There's also a risk as well when you're talking health and drops and just, is he going to be a long-term guy or just someone else as part of this churn that's been all too common with the Steelers tight end situation for the last couple of years?
Yeah, and as you mentioned, red zone, 12 red zone touchdowns over the course of the last 2 years, most of those coming 2 years ago, has caught him in all kind of forms and fashion. There's even a little little shovel pass in there, a la that kind of that play they run with Juju, and really have kind of run too much, if you ask me, over the years there. But I mean, he's caught one that way. He can run that corner route and become a mismatch there. He can do the back shoulder there at the pylon. He can run that skinny post out of the slot and does a good job of using his body, I think, to shield off from defenders. Now, there is the question with his catching ability. He will let the ball get into his body at times. So he's been known to be a body catcher at times, and other times my description of him after going through his tape over the weekend is, man, he can make the tough catch look easy and the easy catch look tough. That kind of guy. But he can work the middle of the field. Boy, he can get up the seam fairly quickly. It'd be a mismatch against some linebackers and some safeties, that's for sure. The other notable kind of thing going against him, I think, and you'll agree with this as well too, is just the run blocking capability. Coming out of North Carolina, wasn't a big run blocker, and if you just look back at last year alone, when he was with as a member of the Colts, I think he had something like 95 plays that he was in on that were that he had to run block on. Now, but the unfortunate thing is trying to pick out the plays in total that included him run blocking with his hand in the dirt are really few and far between. So, they stood him up a lot. They had him just, slightly detached at times from the line of scrimmage, standing up either in bunch formation or kind of running out of the slot there. So, not a lot of experience with this guy run blocking with his hand in the dirt, and there's probably a damn good reason for that.
Yeah, certainly a different type of Steelers tight end, and in shades of Ladarius Greenway is going to be a stand-up guy, a big receiver, a mismatch, as opposed to the more traditional inline attached tight end, though. He'll probably have to do some of that in Pittsburgh.
It'll be interesting, assuming we get to camp and all like that, for you to report on him and the sled drills and going through the having to go through the that crawl space first before they get to the sled. I bet he won't be a fan of those.
Yeah, probably not. I'll just see how often he lines up in line in practice. That'll be something we'll certainly gonna monitor pretty closely. I will say, just overall, when you're talking about Wisniewski and Ebron and the guy we're going to talk about in a moment, Chris Wormley, and I made this point. I wrote an article. I said it on Twitter. I know that they would have signed these veterans regardless. It's been the Steelers' MO for a while to plug holes with some veteran guys prior to the draft. But I really think acquiring veterans is more important in 2020 than potentially any other year, because in a year where off-season programs are going to be wiped out, no rookie minicamp, no OTAs, no minicamp in all extreme likelihood, training camps could be disrupted, regular season, we're not even guaranteed to start that on time right now. These rookies are going to be so behind the eight ball. They're going to miss all that important off-season time. You really can't count on any of those guys, especially for the positions that are tough to transition to, like tight end, which to me is probably the second toughest position to make the jump from, only behind, obviously, quarterback. So you have to get these veteran guys who can come in, play right away, that even if they miss some offseason time, they're going to be in the right shape, going to have experience in the system and in the NFL and what it means to be a professional. So I think really more than ever, you have that heightened awareness of it's really good to get these veteran guys in, because they're going to have to contribute a whole lot while your rookie class might essentially redshirt in 2020.
That's a good point, because in general, we normally get most of these guys redshirting as Steelers. Now, more than ever, I think there's a real good shot at your second and third round pick this year not seeing much time, and especially depending on the position that they play. I mean, if you get an interior interior offensive lineman with one of your first 2 picks. I mean, the hope is that you don't have to get him getting playing time right out of the chute here because of a guy like Wisniewski be able to play guard and center on top of it. And boy, the Steelers have always preached that position flexibility in general. And a guy like Ebron now, I'm not envisioning, even so, I'm not envisioning too many 2 tight end sets with McDonald and Ebron just yet, based on the blocking abilities of both right now. But at least you have the ability to do so. You have the ability to have, you got Zach Banner back. That's an important re-sign now at this point from an experience aspect there. You can use him in 2 tight end sets there if you need be. And I think it's just a great point overall that the guys that you're bringing in should, you would hope, know what it takes to be an NFL professional and show up in the proper condition, and also be able to understand the concepts of the initial installs.
Exactly, and I agree. You're not going to see these 2 tight end sets where these guys are both in line run blocking, but you can be creative with it too. If you want to go 2 tight end set with Vance and Ebron and split Ebron out wide and keep a defense in their base and force a linebacker to walk out and lighten the box, you're effectively blocking that linebacker by walking him out and moving him from the box. So there are ways that you can create advantages in the run game with 2 tight end sets without actually having Ebron to be attached in line and a tight end. But I agree. I said this a while back with Vance, is that he is at max 500 snap a season type guy. I mean, that's what he's been in his best years. Last year, he actually played well more than that, almost 750, but he clearly was overburdened by that workload, and his play suffered because of it. So he's got to be a 500 snap a season guy, and you got to find someone else to pick up the other potentially 500 snaps, and Eric Ebron is going to be able to do that. So I think that's the signing where they're replacing each other one-to-one in substitutions as opposed to always being on the field at the same time.
The thing is, though, you talk about, the opposing defense sees you roll out 2 tight ends. It's not going to take too long for them not to be so scared and thus not put out a heavy package, as heavy as a package because of the personnel that's in there. I mean, you get what I'm saying here. I mean,
if you want to put a nickel corner on Eric Ebron, then I'm fine with that. I'll throw some jump balls to him.
Yeah, but even so, you're the athletics from the athlete. You obviously, a lot of times when teams roll out 2 tight end packages, you'll want to go a little bit more heavier against that.
Sure, they'll stay in base. Yeah, so if they want to stay in base, we'll walk a linebacker out. If they want to go nickel, well, they don't have a nose tackle, or they're lighter in the box and they're walking a nickel corner out, or rolling a safety down, creating single high. I don't know. I think there's a lot of ways to win with that.
Yeah, but you have to at least be able to show you're willing to run out of that on occasion.
Sure. Oh, and I would. Yeah, I would be running, and I would just have Ebron out and walked out and removed, and I think that lightens the box that way. I just think there are ways to be creative, but you're right. I mean, Ebron is not going to offer much as a blocker, and again, from a blocking standpoint, I know that there's just a boogeyman to keep mentioning his name, but he does have a Ladarius Green type feel.
An overall run blocking grade of 67.4 last season from PFF.
Is that considered bad?
I mean, it's got that olive green color, so it's more positive than it is negative. But I think most of that stems from 2 games: the game against the Chiefs and the game against the early season game against the Texans. So those were 2 games that he had, and I went and watched the snaps against the Texans. He had a nice kind of combination block but from stand up position in that game that free to run on the outside. Maybe he got a couple extra bonus points for that. Really getting one at the snap and then going to the next level and getting another guy there, and more than anything just being a roadblock.
Yeah, I would love to know how many snaps he had in a 3-point stance as a cat in line tight end in 2019.
I didn't see. I went through that Houston game, and I don't think I saw any of them in that game. So I'm, like I said at the top of the show when we're talking about them, I bet they're going to be few and far between, Alex.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, I just wonder if it's 30, is it 5, is it 50? Maybe that's a project for later on in the offseason. I mean, overall, again, I don't dislike the signing. I understand the signing. I've been preaching about the lack of production between the numbers last year. They had some production outside the numbers last year with Deontay Johnson, James Washington. They could get vertical and outside the numbers. They could not do anything between the numbers last year. That was a big problem, and Ebron is going to help that. But I will say, I'm going to be the cynic here. I understand the signing, but I Obviously this could change draft plans, and they're less likely to take a tight end now that they've signed Eric Ebron. And again, we're going to see a situation where they are likely to ignore making a serious investment in the position in the draft. Haven't drafted anybody above the fifth round since 2007 with Matt Spaeth, which blows my mind for a team that drafts as its number one goal. And we've seen this churn of Ladarius Green. Okay, it didn't work out. Okay, let's get Vance. That's decent, but still, we got to find someone else. Let's get Vanette. Okay, it didn't work out, and now we're at Ebron. And we're going to go through this churn of tight end after tight end after tight end, as opposed to building from within, which is this team's mantra. That's my concern.
Well, you know how I feel about it in the position. I think it's less likely more than ever that they draft a tight end early.
I agree. Yeah, I think those are the ones that changes the landscape.
And I think there's a good chance, and really I said this going into this, and now I really believe it. I think there's a good chance they don't draft one at all now, Alex. If they stand pat with just the 6 picks that they have. Heck, at this point, I hope Charlie Warner goes undrafted and and they get him as an undrafted free agent to have a guy that maybe compete with a guy like Zach Gentry right now there. But look. I will be shocked if they draft a tight end, let's say, with their first 3 selections this year. And really, I'm not going to be surprised at all if they don't draft a tight end at all. Now, once again, and I understand your frustration with the matter, but until Eric Ebron shows us anything, we've got to look at Eric Ebron as being a potential one and done guy here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when it comes to Vance McDonald, there's no reason not to believe that 2020 probably is likely to be his last season as well too. So you could get, maybe these two help get, and Zach Gentry combined help get you to 2021, but after that the cupboard's really going to be bare then. Unless you go out and sign another free agent, tight end to another 2-year deal and hope that you get a year out of.
And that's my point. You just keep kicking this can down the road where if you drafted a tight end this year, hypothetically, I still think it's possible. And if you had a tight end depth chart of Vance McDonald, Eric Ebron, and pick your favorite tight end, let's just call him Adam Trautman, I mean, that's a really strong group, not only for the present, but for the future. So if Trautman kind of redshirts this year and next year one of Ebron or McDonald are gone, and if they both stay, then great, they're both more productive, then Trautman can step in and have that elevated role, and hopefully you have that long-term option. So I'm still not opposed to investing in the position right now. I just think it's probably less likely given the class and obviously given the signing of Eric Ebron. But as I've said before, they signed Steven Nelson last year to a big contract, and they go out there and draft Justin Lane in the 3rd round. So it doesn't stop them from double dipping. That's actually been pretty common for them. So we'll see what happens. But again, I know Ebron's 26. Everyone's yelling at me. He's only 26, but Ladarius Green was 26. Vance McDonald was 27 when he came over. Nick Vanette was 26. I mean, that age only means so much. We've seen these guys come and go so much and so quickly that I'd really like to do that long-term investment in the draft.
Well, we don't hate the move. We were a bit surprised by it, and B, I mean, he is what he is. I mean, he is a guy that can help open it up, hopefully in the middle of the field for you, and a guy that can give you some. And Lord knows, after last season, last in the league in red zone production, obviously there was a lot of layers to that onion and reasons why. But Ben could use another tall target in there, and especially one that can get open in the middle of the field and use his body, to shield off. So it's not like we hate this signing altogether. It's just, I think when you peel back the layers to it, you start looking at, what all's involved in it. It's kind of an average signing, if you ask me.
Yeah, again, there's just a risk to it. And you got to recognize that, and he's not a great fit in terms of what the Steelers tight end typically has to do. So it's a little bit of a square peg in a round hole situation. Now, they can be creative, and there's certainly ways to maximize his strengths and minimize those weaknesses, but that'll be the challenge with Eric Ebron, because you're not getting a quote-unquote traditional Steelers tight end, and they're going to have to work around that.
Here's the thing, too, that surprised me when going through some of his stuff. I would have swore to you that he had through his first 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 6 seasons that he would have had more than like 30, however many 20-yard gains that he has. I think it's like 34, 35 or something like that. I would have swore to you just from remembering highlights alone that he would have a lot more than that. And for some reason he doesn't. Now, he's good out in the open field. I mean, we see him hurdling guys and things like that. I just, you just don't see the 20-yard gain with him that I thought that you'd done. Maybe he'll surprise us and turn around and have eight or nine of those plays. And Lord knows the value of explosive plays in today's NFL. I was just surprised to see that number being so low, through 6 seasons. The other thing is, obviously, has missed some games due to injury. Obviously missed the final 6 games last season due to, and I think it's plural, ankle injuries here, and he had those repaired, or reportedly had surgery on those in December. So hopefully good to go. You remember when Ladarius Green had an ankle coming off ankle surgery?
Did he? Yeah. Because
Tomlin didn't want to update it, and we worried, wondered how much of that was concussion related and how much was ankle related, and yada yada yada. So hopefully they really tug on that ankle pretty good when they do the physical on this guy as well too. So that's the other. And look, I mean, we don't know for sure. We've never been in a locker room with this guy. A bit of an old Lions beat writer, tends to think that this guy could be a potential, locker room diva, kind of be a little bit of a trouble in the locker room. Now, I'm not overly concerned about that just because of the people the Steelers already have in the locker room. You would think that you would have an experienced enough locker room to kind of handle and to squash all of that, and especially learning the lessons after, AB being gone.
Yeah, I'm not worried about Ebron as a locker room presence. Honestly, that just sounds like a bitter Lions beat writer. And even if that was true, maybe that's stuff where he was young, his rookie year, and he's older and matured there. I do know there was frustration expressed by the Colts last year. I forget if it was Frank Reich or whoever it was.
Yeah, for him shutting it down too soon, I think.
Right. So is that something? Is that nothing? I don't know, but I know that was something that was talked about with Eric Ebron last year, that the Colts were unhappy that he basically missed so much time and wasn't able to come back and all that. So I've just doesn't mean a whole lot. Not really implying anything here. I'm just throwing it out there.
Right. Once again, we've got a long way to go on. I just did cipher down, go through his red zone stuff and some of his blocking from last year. So we've got all off season to kind of, look a little bit deeper into him.
I know this is kind of a trite cliche question to ask, but just to kind of sum it up, if you had to put a grade on this signing, what would you give it?
C++ or a B-.
Yeah, I was thinking B-. Yeah. Again, I mean, he's gonna be able to provide an impact, but is he gonna be a long-term guy? Maybe. We said about that a lot of guys. So there is, again, risk with this guy, and not an ideal scheme fit where this team's gonna have to make sure they know how to use him properly.
I guess another question is more, does he offer you more upside or more downside?
That is a good question. Hopefully it is on the more upside scale. All right, Dave, so the Ebron news came in on Friday, and about 46 seconds later, more news came flying in. This one even more surprising than the fact they went out there and signed Eric Ebron. They made a trade with the Baltimore Ravens. I believe the stat is only the second trade with the Ravens ever, the other being in 1997. I'm sure you and your ability to recall will tell me who that is, because I don't know who the player is in that deal. But Pittsburgh trading a 2021, so next year's 5th-round pick, for Ravens defensive lineman Chris Wormley, and a 2021, again, next year, 7th-round pick. That one, truly a shocker of the offseason.
Yeah, especially when you're talking about the two players involved. And as you said, the only other trade between the Steelers and Ravens occurred in 1997, and that was when the Ravens acquired Bernard Daphne from.
Who could forget Bernard Daphne?
Yeah, absolutely, the infamous Bernard Daphne.
Who is Bernard Daphne?
I mean, that's even. I don't think he. I haven't even drilled down to see.
Did he ever play in the NFL?
I think he played.
Yeah, he played with Baltimore that year. He played in one game. He was with Pittsburgh in '96. Started one game, kind of bounced around a lot of teams with Minnesota initially.
He was drafted originally by the Houston Oilers in the 9th round of the 247th overall in the 1992 draft.
So. Hello, Bernard, if you're listening.
Yeah.
Bernard, I doubt you are. All right, so you get the
no, he died. Yeah, I doubt he is. Well, he might be. He died January 11th, but 2006. No. So.
I'm sorry, I didn't know that. That's very insensitive of me. Anyway, all right. Well, I've done a good job here with the podcast. All right, Chris Wormley, traded for Chris Wormley. What's your initial thought on that deal?
This is a Michigan product that the Steelers showed a little bit of interest in going back several years ago, and a guy grew up a Steelers fan evidently, a guy that really has been a fan of Mike Tomlin, and Mike Tomlin of him, it seems, going back to a couple of pro days ago at Michigan there, a guy that obviously the Ravens with the flurry of kind of additions and re-signings they've had so far this offseason. Wormley kind of became, the odd man out, if you will, and because he played enough in his first 3 years, he registered for the proven performance escalator, which means his salary his salary in 2020, which is currently scheduled to be the final year of his rookie contract, escalated to $2.133 million, which is a low tender on that. So a little bit of an inexpensive kind of 1 year guy right now, if you will, as well. Now, I think if you look at last year's tape and then the tape before in 2018, you'll see a little bit of different usage in there. This guy can play up and down the defensive line. I think in 2018, a little bit more in kind of a more traditional defensive tackle, nose tackle, one tech kind of setting there. A guy, as you broke down in your post on him on the Depot a few days ago, a guy that's good against the run, could still develop more as an inside pass rusher. I think we both agree on that. A nice level of athleticism to him. Boy, you go back to the combine a few years ago, he was the highest ranked P-Spark player at defensive lineman at the combine. What was it? Was it 16, 17, 18? No, 17. I think 2017. Is that right? 17, 18? Yeah, 2017.
Yeah, right.
But has a nice level of athleticism to him. And just looking at this thing from afar without going deeper into his 2018 tape, I think this might be the guy they think can play quite a bit of base snaps for this defense.
In terms of playing nose tackle.
Yeah, lining up, maybe not a traditional 0, but as more of a 1. But I think that they think because of his ability to play against the run, that they think that they could possibly get him some of those Javon Hargrave snaps.
Well, I agree wholeheartedly that he's an excellent run defender. You're trading for Chris Wormley for his run defense. You're not trading for his pass rush. It's relatively minimal, but he is certainly someone that stuffs the run as well as you could really hope for the type of guy that he is. I'm just more confused about how they're going to use him because from what I've seen, and maybe I missed some of the stuff in 2018, I did watch some of that, but I saw him really more as a 3-tech and a 5-tech that certainly has the measurables of a classic defensive end. 6'5", 300 pounds, 34-inch arms. A little tall to play nose tackle, I think, though again his run defense is good, so we'll see how they use him for whatever it's worth, and it's probably grain of salt, but the Steelers website does have him listed as a nose tackle. Again, take that with a grain of salt, but we'll see how they move him. Obviously, hopefully he can be versatile. I just don't know how much true one tech nose tackle in a base defense he's gonna play, but we'll see there. Obviously that's the best way to get him play time. If they're not gonna play at nose tackle, what is the path and the plan? I could also see if they're able to re-sign him after the season, the longer term Alulu replacement, because as good as the year that he had this past season, talking about Tyson Alulu, I mean, he's well into his 30s, probably not playing beyond 2020, so that could be an option there if they're able to get him to a contract extension. But yeah, you're getting to me, a high floor, low ceiling type player that's going to be really strong versus the run.
Say that again. High floor, low
ceiling.
Yeah,
his ceiling's not super high.
I would agree with that. He's not going to. I don't think he's going to all of a sudden become a better pass rusher, especially on the interior.
Yeah, he's a power pass rusher, bull rush. That's all you're getting with him. Nothing more.
But I think once again, we'll see how he's used, and he wasn't used exclusively inside in 2018. But I think that's the portion of the tape that needs to be studied the most on him.
Did you see it any last year? Because I did not see it in 2019. I saw him playing as a traditional base end.
Very, very little, I think. I had heard that most of it had been in 2018, so I jumped more to that tape.
Okay. It's weird that he didn't play more interior lineman last year because they had injuries last year. They lost Brandon Williams and they had some holes there on the inside. So I'm surprised that he didn't play more in that traditional one-tech spot last year.
I'll give you some, let's see here, from last year, snaps by position. As a defensive tackle, and they don't, I don't have the tech, lineup here. He played about 258 snaps as a tackle.
Yeah, I'm betting most of that
game
is a 3-tech.
Now in 2018, where they actually have some nose tackle snaps on him here. Not a lot, but about 20, 25.
At nose tackle?
As a traditional listed nose tackle.
Yeah. So, it's hard to find those snaps, and that's what I wrestle with. Is obviously the holes at nose tackle. His run defense is strong. Could he play inside? Sure. Certainly, if there was an injury in game, I think he's more than capable of doing it in a pinch. Is that the plan out of the chute with him? Hopefully, we'll get our answer soon when someone's able to talk to Kevin Colbert and or Mike Tomlin. But just trying to find the fit. Because 6'5" nose tackle is a little on the tall side.
Yeah, absolutely. Look at his measurables as a whole. As when he was coming out of Michigan anyway. I remember us talking about him. But boy, this is a classic 4 or 5 tech.
Absolutely.
Guy because of his build, and really it's hard for the Steelers to find those guys nowadays.
Mm-hmm. Yep, definitely.
Normally, no disrespect to Bugs, but he's a little bit on the shorter side from what.
And the length isn't great either. I don't think.
Right, and the length, and I think Wormley's got some nice arms too.
Yeah, it's like he's prototypical. He's 34-inch arms. He is a 2003, 5 tech. Like he is just that classic mold. That's like you said, it's hard to find.
Well, I think where we're going to get our answer on this is in the draft. More than anything, if they and maybe we'll see what happens with Dan McCullers here over the next couple weeks as well too, because if they get in a draft and now and here's the thing too is those classic pluggers. Those guys that really are more nose tackles than they are even defensive tackles. They tend to go a little bit later in a draft. So maybe they can get a guy that'll fall a little bit into the 3rd or maybe the 4th round. And if they do get one of those prototypical pluggers, well, then that'll tell us a little bit more. Maybe initially they'll ask Wormley to help out some initially to see how he does in some of those situations, with the long-term goal really being, obviously the kid that they draft being your base, nose tackle, if you will, and then Wormley, as you state, with Olulu, potentially being gone, and really you still don't know what you have in Bugs overall. It did look good last year in limited playing time there, but maybe Wormley becomes more of your Olulu type of player. But here's the thing with him: are you going to go ahead and get him locked up now? You would think, because the Steelers don't do deals during the off season. During the season, and you take the chance of this guy playing lights out.
Right.
Having to get in a situation maybe where he has to play more snaps than what you envision. Him having an okay season and hitting free agency and gone. So I think there's a good chance of Wormley. In the next couple of weeks here, maybe signing a 2-year extension or something along those lines. A, to help get his cap number down a little bit, and B, to make sure you got a guy that you have in the fold, because it is so hard to find those classic 4 or 5 techs with his build with Olulu not being long for.
Mm-hmm. I know he grew up as a Steelers fan. That's always an interesting tidbit. But would he want to sign an extension now, or would he kind of want to see how the organization, how things go for a year, as opposed to just signing that extension kind of blindly before ever playing a snap for the team?
Well, he's definitely going to put $2 million in his pocket this season. So if he's comfortable with that, maybe you do say, look, I'd like to play it by ear here.
Mm-hmm. Right, because it's not like he signed here willingly. He got traded.
Right.
And again, I'm sure he likes to. I'm sure he's happy to be here. I'm sure a Steelers fan going up, but you want to make that investment right now. Let's kind of see how this year goes. Salary cap's probably going to go up a lot next year. So I don't know. I'm just spitballing ideas right now. I don't know what's in his head, but yeah, a couple other notes I have on Chris Wormley. As a pass rusher, he's going to collapse the pocket, a power bull rush type guy. Will get his hand up in throwing lane. So 7 pass deflections over the last 2 years.
Had a key one against the 49ers last year, didn't he? On
yeah.
fourth down?
So I think he's a guy that can be able to create turnovers in that sense, where a tip pass leads to an interception. I think that happened last year with Devin Bush's interception against the Chargers. I think Alulu got a hand on one, and Bush was able to pick it off. And also a guy that plays with good effort. We know in Pittsburgh, if you're a defensive lineman, you better play with fanatical effort. You better run to the football. And I think he shows, Wormley does, good chase and effort and hustle of the football downfield. So again, all the kind of benchmarks of a Steelers defensive lineman: tough, physical, solid run defense, good length, good size, good effort, smart player. I mean, all those things, he kind of checks off those boxes.
Now, whereas with Ebron, I think it severely, because of who you already have on the roster, I think it severely points to this team not drafting a tight end. I still, it could definitely go either way with a defensive lineman.
They could definitely still draft one. There's a good argument. There's a good argument to be made. They should still draft one because you said Wormley's in the last year of his deal. I mean, and you want to push
not long for, and
well, I mean, they keep hanging on to Big Dan. I don't want to, we keep saying he's gone, and I've said that for a while, and they keep hanging around. But if they want to push him off the roster, it certainly won't hurt my feelings.
Who are your 6 right now? Assuming they keep 6.
Well, it's Hayward, Tuitt, Alulu, Buggs, Wormley, McCullers. Those are your 6. So, I mean, they don't have to draft somebody. I mean, you have your 6 today, I guess, if Wormley's going to play inside, which I'm not 100% sure of, but I still think they need to add some reinforcements. And historically, they've double dipped at those positions that they've addressed in free agency.
Yeah, so. I think it could go either way. I won't be surprised to see it go either way, because, and especially if they stand pat with 6 picks. I mean, I still think there's room at the end at the draft for Benito Jones and all, but like I said, because of guys that traditionally better suited to play maybe base amount of snaps, as a defensive tackle / nose tackle, maybe you can get one of those guys to fall 3rd, 4th round that you like.
Yeah. Or I think you go the other direction. Now let's get a premier pass rusher, kind of a Hargrave mode like Gallimore or Matabuke, or Blacklock's probably not going to be the best fit for Pittsburgh, but it's one of those guys, because Wormley obviously is not going to give you that. So if you want to give the Wormley as kind of the classic run stuffer, and with this more athletic D tackle that you take in the 2nd or 3rd round as that Hargrave mold, that might be a good way to kind of splice it up.
True or false? The Steelers will not draft a tight end or defensive lineman at 49 overall.
Yeah, I was going to say false, and then you added the caveat of
I wasn't going to make it that easy on you.
Yeah, I know. I was hoping you were going to make that easy on me, because I got him and off for 30 seconds. People are probably annoyed that I'm not answering the question like I'm not doing right now. I will say true, because it's obviously easier just to say what positions they won't draft as opposed to they will draft. I think tight end's looking pretty unlikely. I still think defensive lineman is possible, but I'll say true. They will not draft either one of those positions.
I will say true as well, too. You knew I was going that way.
Yeah. All right, so you like the Wormleys. What did you like more, the Ebron signing or the Wormley trade in terms of everything? Contract, trade value, all that stuff?
Believe it or not, the Ebron signing, just because it gives you the ability to do some things offensively in the middle of the field. I mean, obviously Wormley, you would think, not going to play a high amount of snaps. At least you're probably hoping on him not having to contribute that high. So, and especially look, I mean, Wormley at $800,000 versus Wormley at $2.133 million is a lot more attractive as well. And Wormley on a 1-year deal. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't hate the Wormley deal. I just think if you're asking me point blank which one I like better, sure. Obviously I think Ebron has the ability to do things, more things for you in 2020.
Mm-hmm. I have just weirdly gut instinct. I kind of feel better about the Wormley deal, but I think Ebron can certainly create those impactful, splashy box score type plays.
Then what do you like best about Wormley?
Just that I know what I'm getting. I have a known, consistent product. He's not going to flame out. His run defense is going to be strong. He's going to run into the football. He's going to do all the little things right. So just I guess I just like the consistency, and I feel like I can trust this guy, and I know that he's going to be a steady, if not unspectacular player.
He seems like a great kid, too, to hear him talk a little bit on. He should fit in real nice in that locker room.
And wasn't he already John with Cam Hayward or something on Twitter, I think?
Yeah,
So.
yeah, and but I mean, he just listened to his interviews, real
Hmm.
good. Him and his wife, I think, just had a recent parents there, so young baby, and looking forward to making a move from Baltimore to Pittsburgh and everything goes along with that. So
Yeah.
just I mean, he screams Steeler.
Yeah, he really does. Yeah, he absolutely does. And the Steelers love these pedigree guys. Every single guy they signed a trade for has pedigree. I mean, Wisniewski was a second-round pick, Wormley a third-round pick, Ebron 10th overall. Look at last year's group of guys: Steven Nelson, Moncrief Barron, all high pedigree guys. If you're a former day one or day two pick, you were on Kevin Colbert's radar.
And that's nothing new, right?
No,
That's
yeah,
something
it's
we say all the time. Look, the Steelers usually like these pedigree guys. They usually like guys that they've had past interest in as well too. And I think with wasn't there some interest in Ebron way back?
Was there? I don't recall that, but that was a while ago. Was what you saying in terms of?
I'm asking.
Is it?
I thought I seem to remember them somebody visiting with him. I don't remember exact details, but I know Wormley said that they even he had met Tomlin back after his sophomore year at that pro day, which would have been ahead of his junior year, and then he met obviously he broke bread with Tomlin at a pro day dinner prior to the year he was drafted.
Yeah, it looks like Eric Ebron met with the Steelers at the Combine. This is an article from Dave Bryan in February 2014. Ebron
definitely met at the Combine. Yeah, definitely.
Ebron said, quote, "I think me and Mike Tomlin had a great conversation. We were just in there cutting it up as if we've known each other for a long time. As I was explaining my history, I felt like me more out of anybody." So, I mean, it's only one Combine interview that I can find really quickly here, but it seems like Ebron liked Mike Tomlin, and Wormley loves Mike Tomlin, and who doesn't like Mike Tomlin? So I'm sure these guys are both excited to come to Pittsburgh.
Exactly.
All right, Dave. So those were the signings. We expect things to slow down pretty considerably. I won't say that they're done. I would still love a safety to come in, though I don't know what safety that would be because the market is pretty.
I think you might have got him. His name is Jordan Dangerfield.
He might be. Did we talk about that? We talked about that.
I don't know. Did we?
I think we talked about that briefly. But anyway, Jordan Dangerfield signed on a 1-year deal, we assume, for the minimum. I believe we did talk about that Friday. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, that's going to vault safety depth up there to near the top of the draft needs. But it's reasonable to say the vast bulk of Steelers free agency is over. That's fair to say, right, Dave?
Yeah, and I mean, look, you still have obviously some. Did Deion Bush sign back with the Bears?
He did, a 1-year deal. Yeah. So I was bummed about that.
You still have room salary cap wise to go get some minimum guys, and maybe they will, and we'll see if they get any of these guys coming out of the XFL now they're able to sign. But even look, I'm with you. It wouldn't hurt my feelings for them to go after a safety on his second contract, if you will. But who's left right now at this point?
Nobody, no one that I can find at least. So probably nothing to do in there.
And I mean, other than that, I mean, I don't think. I mean, what other positions would they bring in at this point?
Not Jameis Winston for P. I'm sure we have an email about that. That's somehow people talking about it more. I know people are saying it's gaining traction. It's just gaining traction in the media.
Where is it gaining traction from? Right. I mean, it's gaining traction because these media guys just keep talking about it.
Right.
If only we had that kind of power to gain traction to talk something into existence.
Right. So pay no mind to that stuff. By the way, speaking of salary cap, where are the Steelers roughly at cap wise? I know we don't know all the contract details right now. Ebron's signing's not even official yet, but give us a rough estimate where they're at.
Yeah, if Ebron signed a contract similar to the one that I think that Barron signed last year, and max cap hit this year of $4 million, and if Jordan Dangerfield indeed signed for the minimum, which is around I think $825,000, with everything, I have the Steelers now at roughly $5.2 million under the cap, and that includes the team adjustment, that includes the OTA workout debt placeholder of almost $677,000. So $5.2 million it should be right about where they're at right now. Now, I did an article day before yesterday. I think people want to know, well, how much does it take for How much of the cap will have to go toward the draft class and all? Believe it or not much at all now at this point because of how the Rule 51 works, and all these estimates are rookie contract draft pick estimates provided by Over the Cap, and they're not going to be exact, but they're going to be pretty damn close. To that. So technically, I think where this team stands right now after trading for Wormley, after signing Ebron and everything all together, I think this team, as I stated, 5.2 under the cap, and it's going to need a little less than $1 million of cap space to sign their draft class. And then if you add on the signing bonuses that you have to accommodate for the undrafted free agents, however many. I think the rookie rookie minimum, or the minimum pool on that's going to be right around 125,000 in bonuses per team for undrafted free agents this year. So if you add all that together, you're looking at roughly $1 million in cap space that this team will need as it stands, as the top 51 stands right now. So not a lot, not going to use a lot of space up for that, obviously. So let's just say that you have roughly about $4.25 million, or let's just be on the safe side, $4 million under the cap to work with right now, which you can still get a few signings, squeezed into that. But on top of that, look, this team, I think it's obvious that the team at some point this offseason will extend Cameron Hayward, hopefully free up a little bit of cap space that way. Who knows what's going to happen with Bud Dupree as the offseason progresses, potentially free up a little bit of cap space that way. If need be, later on as the offseason goes on, they can restructure guys like DeCastro and or Tuitt to free up a little bit of cap space that way as well, too. So really, to be honest with you, it's been kind of business as usual, Alex.
Yeah, I mean, it just took them restructuring all those contracts, but it certainly was enough to give them the breathing room they need. And yeah, that's very manageable going forward. By the way, I got to tip my cap to you, Dave, because that Stefan Wisniewski deal was cheap, as you predicted. 2 years, $2.85 million total? That is dirt cheap.
Absolutely, and I had a feeling it was going to turn out that way with him, and I think a net cap usage was somewhere around 600,000 in net cap. You just had, that's the way Colbert likes to do those deals with these guys, and yeah, I mean, my projection wasn't too far off from what it ended up being, and once again, you get a guy that can play both the guard and center position and do so at cheap. And look, I think we all think that there's a high probability that'll be just a 1 year with Wisniewski, but you never know. If he plays well and stays healthy, well, then obviously the consideration will be to keep him for that second year there. So I think you and I think we agree on this. The only reason we didn't maybe talk more about him is because we got a little bit of over 30 age blind there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hopefully some of these guys stick around for more than 1 year, because of the last 2 seasons free agency signings, only Steven Nelson has made it to year 2. Bostic, Burnett were out in year 1, and Barron Moncrief gone in year 1. So hopefully some of these guys have a better track record than the majority of the Steelers' recent free agency classes.
I have a feeling a year from now we're going to be talking about Wisniewski not being here.
Yeah, well, hopefully Ebron stays. Somebody's better stay. I mean, they could all be gone. And Wormley last year was deal. My goodness, hopefully someone sticks around.
All right.
All right. Speaking of guys that are no longer sticking around, Steelers free agents apparently were a hot commodity. All but poor LT Walton, who makes me waiting a while to get signed, have gone elsewhere, and that includes Nick Vannett, who signed a 2-year, just under $6 million deal with Denver, and Artie Burns, who went to Chicago on a deal that I'm not sure what the terms of there are. I assume the money was pretty cheap. So Vannett, still a bad trade ultimately. I mean, a 5th-round pick for a guy that didn't play well, and now he's not in Pittsburgh anymore. But I would not have paid him the money that Denver paid him.
I would not have either. And they keep talking about, well, they got him a good blocking tight end in Vannett. We didn't see it, and I really, to be honest with you, and I know you and I talked about this on the live stream that we did Monday night there. I didn't see that at Seattle, especially that final year, or his previous final, whatever his final year was, their complete season. I didn't see it there, and I definitely didn't see it. I know you didn't see it in Pittsburgh last season after he arrived via the trade there. I'm not surprised that they didn't re-sign him. I am surprised that Denver paid him the kind of money they did, and I'm glad they did, because the kind of the guaranteed money I think that's involved in there means that but by the time the dust settles, that there's going to be some compensatory draft pick value there.
Yeah, I guess that is, and I wrote about this yesterday, the one silver lining. Now, I don't like to use this to justify the Vanette deal. You still call it a bad deal because you didn't know what he was going to get in the market, and you didn't know what your own free agency plans were, and, that's comp value, not just comp pick set in stone. So I think that's kind of some galaxy brain stuff that doesn't really work with this, but according to Nick Corte of Over the Cap, the Steelers are still projected to get, in terms of comp picks for 2021, a 4th-rounder and 2 6th-round picks. So that does kind of, ease the loss of Vanette and that 5th-round pick from this year, and then also trading the 5th-round pick next year for Chris Wormley. You kind of recoup that back with all the compensatory picks you're expected to get in 2021.
Right, and I mean, obviously that can change if some of these players get released or something like that. As we saw obviously last year with who was it?
LJ
Fort,
Moncrief,
and then obviously Moncrief, and we'll have to see how all that plays out. Deshaun Davis, I can't believe he got the up to money that he got there, but a guy that still has still young, and a guy that's played multiple positions. The Redskins view him having maybe a change of scenery being good for him. They obviously see more of the upside possibility with a guy like Sean Davis.
Yeah, I knew he was not going to play for the minimum or anything super close to it. He's still 25, 26 years old, good athlete, a lot of starting experience. I mean, that's going to get paid on the open market. But he gets to go home. He went to school at Maryland and grew up in D.C., so relocating to Washington makes sense for him. And then
look at all these guys the Steelers will play against next season. Javon Hargrave, Tyler Matakevich, right? Sean Davis.
Yeah, it'll be a couple of jersey swaps, I'm sure, at the end of these games. And then Artie Burns goes to Chicago on, I think, a 1-year deal. Do we know the contract terms on Artie?
I think it was 1 year. I don't know if we have a value on it yet, but you would have to think it's at the minimum or pretty damn near close to it.
Yeah, wish him well. Obviously, we knew there was no way he was coming back to Pittsburgh after the season ended. He admitted as much. He needs to change his scenery somewhere where he isn't carrying that weight of being a first-round bust, which he was. I don't want to be too harsh here, but I think, for me, the worst pick of Kevin Colbert's career so far. But hopefully, change of scenery does him well, and he can succeed in Chicago.
Yeah, a guy that I know I grimaced on as soon as he was taken. A guy that I think was more of a late 2nd rounder, early 3rd rounder than he was a 1st rounder there, and it makes you kind of wonder how things would have worked out had the Bengals not taken William Jackson.
Well, William Jackson would be a Steeler right now if the Bengals hadn't done it, so history would have definitely been different.
Then I guess technically William Jackson would be on his 5th-year option. This year right now as well too. So the trickle down is you probably don't have Steven Nelson with this team. There's several different degrees, trickle down things, that would have happened off of that. So it's hard to say, well, this definitely would have been this or that definitely would have been that.
Sorry, train going by. So, again, wish Burns well, but obviously a mistake there for Kevin Colbert. Speaking of Vanette and the tight end situation, you want to talk about Zach Gentry a little bit and just kind of how his future, how he just kind of feels locked in as a number 3 tight end after the signing of Eric Ebron.
Yeah, and I've written about this about 2 different times since the offseason started about we're sure to know by the time the draft rolls around what the team kind of thinks about Zach Gentry, and really I don't even think we have to wait until the draft rolls around now because of what the team did last week with McDonald's contract and the guaranteed money that he got as part of the signing bonus, and then obviously signing on Eric Ebron right now. I mean, it instantly makes Zach Gentry the 3rd tight end once again on the depth chart, and if there's any consolation, I guess, is that McDonald and Ebron have had problems staying healthy throughout their careers to date there. But even so, barring this team adding competition, which they probably will add some level of competition. Probably more so as an undrafted free agent here to Zach Gentry. I think your tight ends are pretty much set right now. The thing is, people say, well, that's a Captain Obvious thing. Color me shocked that they're going to take a fifth-round pick and still bring him along slowly. He probably won't play much in the second season. Well, Jesse James played more in his second season, didn't he? I mean, they kind of used him more in that role. So, where we sit right now, it doesn't look like Zach Gentry's on pace to get too many snaps in 2020. And heck, once you get 2 years into a guy's contract like that, and you're already talking about next season potentially spending a high, draft pick on the position. This guy could be gone as quick as he arrived,
Yeah, I think it just, obviously they never really viewed Gentry as the guy, and he was always more backup than starter, which isn't a bad thing. Got to have a good backup tight end on the roster. Maybe he can become that, but probably not going to see starter material with Gentry, and I think these moves are an obvious admission of that. So
it would be nice if he showed you something as a blocker this offseason, so you could maybe use him in some of these two tight end situations.
Right.
Pair him with McDonald, pair him with Ebron, those kind of things. I think right now that's the thing that we're looking for the most when it comes to Gentry is how much stronger can he get? How much more can he develop as a blocker? Because make no mistake about it, Jesse James came out of Penn State. He wasn't a great blocker, right?
He was underclassmen too. He was like Gentry. He was young.
But he did make some. I mean, he never became he never became Matt Spaeth, but he did develop some as a blocker. So if they could get Gentry to do that this season and use him, I don't know, 100 snaps, 100 snaps or so as a second tight end and maybe help the run game. I think that's still the high side that you're looking at right now with him.
Yeah, that would be huge. If he can develop as a blocker, that'd be the best thing for his longevity, both with the Steelers and in the NFL in general. Switching gears to the draft here, David, you have a player profile. We kind of took a break from draft stuff because free agency was so consuming. We're kind of back in the draft mind now. I do have a report on a guy the Steelers have shown interest in. Had a pro day dinner with Tanner Muse, the linebacker safety from Clemson. Really good athlete, good ball skills. Someone that supports the run well, but very stiff-hipped in my opinion, and someone that I think is going to be very difficult to stay at safety and probably going to have to convert to linebacker.
And that's been the talk about him, right? This is a guy coming out of the combine, had a very nice combine and supposedly followed up with a very equally impressive pro day there. But a guy that overall is probably going to be a linebacker at the next level. How much of those final few games with him at linebacker did you peruse?
What did I have? I have to look at my notes. I think I watched more mid-season. Yeah, I mean, I think, even when he wasn't playing, true linebacker, he was still playing in the box a lot, so he was moving around a lot. A very versatile guy for Clemson. So, I mean, he's somebody that certainly works better closer to the line of scrimmage. He's physical against the run. He plays with an edge. He's a high-energy guy. You just put him in space when he's asked to change directions, flip his hips and all that. That's where he gets into a lot of trouble.
4th, 5th, 6th round guy?
Yeah, I have, I think, a mid. What did I have on Tanner Muse here? My projection. Let me pull up my profile here briefly. And by the way, I have a Steelers mock draft coming out tomorrow. So people listening on Tuesday, it'll be out Wednesday. We'll see if Tanner Muse is part of that or not. I
bet he is.
We'll see. I have a midday 3 projection on Tanner Muse. He could go a little bit higher than that just because, when you run 4.41 at 227 pounds at Clemson, those guys tend to go a little bit higher. You're going to roll the dice on them. But, I think someone that could
be a fantastic special teams player.
I was just going to say that. Yeah, he's going to be, I think, at worst, a really, really good special teams player. Will he evolve in anything more than that? I think to do that, his best chance will be coming at making the switch to linebacker as opposed to hanging out at safety.
Could you see the Steelers drafting him?
Sure. I mean, they had dinner with him. I mean, that's the one guy we kind of know. Would I love the pick? I wouldn't love the pick. I would get the pick, and I could see the value in it. I'd be again very interested in see how they want to use him going forward. If they want to move him to that linebacker role, then I think he'll have more success as opposed to trying to keep him at safety. So I don't think he would address the Steelers' safety concerns.
I agree, and I think if you want to get him, you'd have to get him with that second of 2 4th-round picks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 124, 135 is probably the way you want to do because, will he get there? Because you don't have a 5th rounder. Will he get there in the 6th? I kind of doubt it. All right, Dave, that's all I had. Anything else?
If you drafted him with that second, fourth round pick, and if all he ever did for you was give you some occasional, he gave you the same. If he was used exactly the way Matakevich was throughout his 4 years, would you be fine with that?
I'd like to get a little bit more from a fourth rounder. I mean, some glimpse of something on defense and pure special teams.
Okay. Let's see. Where else do we need to go here?
That was everything I had written down. So, she went out by Cam Newton getting released today by the Panthers. Obviously, no one suggesting the Pittsburgh Police, but that is some finality there. If you have anything else today, feel free to chime in, or we can jump to some reader emails.
You think we're going to see a couple of XFL guys in here in this next week?
I'm sure. I have no idea who. I really hadn't followed. I watched the first week, and then I kind of tuned out, which is usually how it goes for me in these upstart leagues. But yeah, I mean, they did that with the AAF, and so I assume they're going to do that with the XFL because they got a ton of roster spots, and also to get some guys that aren't rookies that have some football experience. It's probably going to be helpful in a year where the offseason is going to be very different than years past.
And we invite everybody to read. Tom Mead's got a player profile up on Dalton Keene out of Virginia Tech. That's worth a read if you get a chance to look at that here over the next couple of days. And Alohi Gilman, I didn't know much about the Notre Dame product, but Daniel's got a nice profile on him, safety out of Notre Dame as well.
Yep, ton of Notre Dame guys, especially in the secondary this year. All right, Dave, let's get to some reader emails and close out the show.
All right, Ashley Lawson writes in from Newcastle, UK. Love the show, and current global situation brings some much-needed relief. Thank you for that. My thoughts are areas to focus in the upcoming 2000 draft. Given the 2019 free agency signings, we also targeted those positions with the first 3 picks: Barron for Bush, Moncrief and Deontay Johnson, Nelson and Justin Lane. With the current 2020 free agency signings, do you think these are the 3 positions the Steelers will target with their first 3 picks? Wisniewski, offensive line; Wormley, defensive line; Ebron, tight end. Thoughts? I think we kind of hit on that, but we'll recap it real quick. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think tight end is one that takes a significant impact where it's less likely. Again, I'm not going to rule it out, and I wouldn't be opposed to the idea, but probably less likely there. But sure, interior offensive line, still very open. To me, defensive line, nose tackle, still very open if the right player falls. The signings of Wisniewski and the trade for Wormley does not change that equation to me really at all.
Makes my Caesar. I think there's a good chance this team still drafts a interior offensive lineman early.
Wait, is it a Caesar chant for Cesar Ruiz, or is that a joke? Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Okay, he was in my last mock draft. I want to be able to look back and say, boy, I hit this one early.
Well, you better keep him.
Well, that's the problem. I don't stick with these guys. I go all over the map. And if I do stick with them, people say, well, you never change anything up. Yep. So there's no winning in mock drafts. But Ashley, I think there is a very good chance this team still drafts an interior offensive lineman. I think it could go either way with defensive line early, really at any point during the draft. As far as tight end, though, you know how I feel about tight end. I'm getting close to the point where I'll be shocked if they draft one at all. And I'm pretty damn close. I was close to that even before the Ebron sign, and I'm even closer now. Thanks for the email, Ashley. Let's see. It looks like Janae Harley writes in, Dave and Alex, hope you're doing well in this transformational time. Wanted to see if there will be more profiles posted soon. In particular, looking for profiles on Cesar Ruiz, Hakeem, how do you pronounce his last name?
The kid from Kansas?
Yeah, the offensive line.
Yeah, I don't know how to say his last name.
Prince Tiga, John Hightower, wide receiver, Yitar Gross Matos, Alex Highsmith, Jalen Johnson, Amik Robertson, Troy Pride Jr. Didn't we put one up on Troy Pride Jr. or no?
I'd have to look.
Justin Blackman, Jordan Fuller, J.R. Reed, Kaliki Hudson. Yeah, we still got a month to go. All these guys, most of these guys should be gotten to here over the course of the next month.
Yeah, some of those names like Highsmith, I think Hightower are in our hopper. So those are planned to be done or about to be done. So you'll see some of those profiles soon.
Bruce Myers writes in. Hi, Dave. I'm curious where you and Alex think the Steelers will focus in this year's draft with all the free agent moves so far. I still see many of the national sports writers saying quarterback, tight end, and wide receiver are the top positions of need for the Steelers. You and most informed Steeler fans know better, but I would like to hear where you think they will focus their attention. Thanks, Bruce. Bruce, I still think wide receivers got a high possibility at being somewhere in this draft, potentially early rather than later. Interior offensive lineman, as we've talked about. Alex and I still think there's a chance you could see a defensive lineman in here. I think an inside linebacker type, safety. I think one of your top two picks could still be a very versatile safety. I think there's a possibility of that. Where else, Alex?
No, you hit on most of them. Again, it's hard to predict because they're picking at 49, and you just don't know how the board's going to look. And as we said, the only position I think it's impacted by free agency is tight end being taken down a peg or two, and still interior offensive lineman's high on the board. I think no stack was still going to be high on the board. What was in the last year of his deal? I mean, you can't just assume he's going to come back or he's going to be able to play well or play even no tackle right now because I don't know how they're going to use the guy. So if you have a good defensive tackle there, who be that long-term guy? I mean, you're definitely going to jump on him. So I think all this stuff.
Oh, edge. We didn't talk about edge. This team's probably going to draft an edge too.
Yeah, I mean, Colbert keeps hinting at it, so I think you got to have an edge in your mock draft, maybe higher than later. So yeah, I think all the stuff we talked about prior to free agency, aside from tight end, it all is essentially remained the same.
And obviously, Alex and I aren't as high on the running back position. It doesn't mean that they won't or can't, address it. And I think Alex and I both be shocked if they draft a quarterback,
Yeah, I mean that's just not going to happen.
So I mean every other position though I think is still possibility on the board there. But I would lean, if I were to bet right now what the Steelers pick at 49 would be, I'd bet it's either a wide receiver or an interior offensive lineman. That would be my bet right now.
Yeah, I think interior offensive lineman is as good as any bet right now.
Let's see what we got here. Garrett Hunt writes in, "Hi Dave, hope your family are staying safe and healthy during this time when everyone is stuck inside. I find myself hungry for more podcast content in the extra time. What do you think about having separate podcasts with whoever from the Depot team that highlights one prospect per show in depth? Basically podcast episode format of the player profiles that your team already does. I think people would eat it up. Maybe another revenue stream, but just a selfish thought of what I would like to listen to at least. The problem is just time, Garrett, because we're writing, we're watching film. It's hard to get some of these other guys scheduled as well too. Maybe the guys that wrote up and did the most homework on these prospects. I don't know, Alex. Maybe we can start at least doing. I don't know what we'll talk about on some of these, but maybe we'll consider going back to three podcasts a week if this virus and all. It's just so hard sometimes if there's no news. We end up talking about the same things over and over again,
Yeah, I will say, as you mentioned earlier, Dave, and some people might not know, we do a live stream every Monday on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. So just type in my name on YouTube and you'll find my channel there. We're 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern time. We're just a live chat. We're just answering questions from fans in the chat. That's all we do for the hour, and maybe look at some stuff online, some articles we kind of scroll through. So if you're kind of jonesing for an extra dose of Steelers information, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern, Mondays on YouTube on my channel. You can catch our live stream and ask a question.
And then you put the replay of that up, and I think that's already up today, right?
Yes, I just posted a little bit ago on Tuesday, so we have an archive of that. So if you miss it, you can go back and listen to the chat, and it's also archived, obviously, on my YouTube channel as well. Plus, I'm playing out of the park baseball. I'm bringing the Pirates to glory, so if you need some baseball and watch me fail at rebuilding the Pirates, you can check that on my YouTube channel.
Oh, criminy. Let's see what else we have here. David Chen writes in, "Hey, Alex, keep up the great work. I thoroughly enjoy content you and the team provide the legions of Steelers fans worldwide on a daily basis. My podcast question is, are there any street free agent safeties worth the Steelers signing on the cheap or tradable for a 7th round pick? Reason for asking is I'd like to use the 2nd and 3rd round choices be purely priority or best player available rather than reaching for a Davis, a Chin, or a Winfield. Thanks."
Short answer, no. All the guys that were on my wish list are gone. Even Miles Killebrew went back to Detroit. Dion Bush went back to Chicago. Jaron Kearse signed with somebody. I don't know who he signed with, but he signed cheaply, so I got nothing for you.
Buddy, in Brisbane, Australia, Dan writes in, "Good day, Dave and Alex. You've talked about the possibility of trading down in the second round. What's the financial impact of this if they hypothetically move to the end of the second round for a fifth and a seventh rounder? Would that make them worse off for the salary cap? No, if anything, and look, it's marginal. Obviously, where the Steelers picked now at 49th overall, if they traded down the cap hit of whatever spot they traded down to in the second round of the player would be ever so slightly lower than the player at 49. So financial impact would be the last thing on the Steelers' mind as it relates to potentially trading down or trading up or whatever in this thing, because these guys are all slotted, as far as contracts go. So no, the financial impact would be the last thing on this team's mind. And will they trade down? I don't know. I mean, we're just throwing darts there, but we think that of all things to potentially happen, for those of you that like to speculate about trades, probably a move down in the second round would be the most obvious choice.
It would make a lot of sense. And yes, the cap issue would be, in a word, insignificant. Would not matter.
Right. Thanks for the question, Dan. Let's go to Chris, 3610. Tanking dynasty. Hi, Dave and Alex. Ding dong, the dynasty's dead. Do you think the Patriots will tank for Trevor? Will Belichick's ego even allow him to, or will they want to prove that he can win with Hoyer or Stidham? Thanks. All this talk about tanking. Obviously, look at just this past season. I mean, the Dolphins had every opportunity to kind of roll over, right, against the Patriots, I think, right?
Yeah.
I just don't get all this tanking talk, and do I think the Patriots will tank for Trevor? No. I mean, I think Belichick wants to see if he, more than ever, see if he can prove that he can win without Brady now, who, by the way, signed with the Buccaneers. I really thought right from the get-go, I thought Brady was going to go back to the Patriots, to be honest with you, but he didn't.
I did too. Obviously, like, no players don't tank, and coaches don't, just not prepare and stuff like that. But if this team's going to start Brian Hoyer for the 2020 season, then how many games are they expecting to win? Like, I don't know. I don't know what the plan is there. I have no idea. I mean,
they're going to end up going after one of these quarterbacks, Newton or Dalton or something along those lines. That's what's going to end up, or Jameis. I don't know. Well, one of those guys, huh?
Why go after Hoyer first?
Because he's cheap,
I guess. But I figured they would just go after the quarterback by now. But I don't know. I mean, this is uncharted territory. Belichick and Brady separated for the first time ever. I have no idea how this is going to go. So we'll see. I mean, Belichick has a plan, and I'm just happy Tom Brady's no longer a Patriot.
He's in the NFC now. But I don't buy any of that tanking talk. You want to impress me now, Bill Belichick? win now. But look, they're going to have a good defense. But offensively, will they be able to get it done? Let's see. Matt writes in from help me pronounce this, Alex, Canuet Lake, PA. Canuet.
I'm not looking at it.
Conneaut.
Like, that sounds right. I don't know. I'm a bad PA.
You've never been to that lake, I'll take it.
I've not been to most lakes.
All right. Matt writes in, first off, as always, thank you. Your website and podcast have always been the best for Steelers coverage since its inception. With the current status of the country, talking Steelers free agency and draft makes everything feel that much better. Who would have known that I'd be part of providing people comforting stuff in the time of need.
Comforting stuff. They're slogan for 2020.
There you go. Question. Oh, look, honestly, Alex and I have talked about in the past that we're honored that people view us doing this as helping in that manner in which it does. So it's good to hear that. Question, which I'm sure probably is going to get covered on the Tuesday podcast. With the several recent signings and losses in free agency, does this put a defensive player straight in the crosshairs of Colbert and Tomlin? I know their history of dabbling in free agency at a position and then also supplementing in the draft, but I can't see a tight end, guard, and obviously not a fullback with their first pick in the second round. I can see the guard slash center, but Dugan, Matt, we're with you there. I don't think it's going to be a tight end. I don't think it's going to be a fullback with their first pick in the second round. Currently, they don't have, let's see, he goes on right. Currently, they don't have a starting quote-unquote nose tackle. The options behind Bush and Williams are pretty thin at inside linebacker, and you and Alex have discussed safety depth quite a bit. Names like Neville Gallimore and Josh Uche sure need to be circled at this point, in my opinion. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, defensive players still possible at those positions you mentioned. Nose tackle, edge could even be a surprise. Safety depth, again, I've screamed about safety depth for the longest time now, and they've yet been able to address it in free agency, and unlikely will be able to until the draft begins. So, yeah, I think defensive options are certainly on the table, but as you said, Dave, I think an interior guy like guard or receiver, because this class is so strong, those are also just as likely possibilities.
I tell you what's happened in the last week and a half is Kevin Colbert's got himself in a position he likes to be in.
Flexibility and options.
Flexibility and all. I think you wrote about that, didn't you?
Matthew did, actually. Great article on that, yeah.
I tell you, Alex and I are gonna have one of these conversations about Josh Uche coming up here for too long that I think is gonna maybe rival our discussion about Bush. I want to watch a little bit more film on him, but man, I still am in the realm with Uche where I think, okay, talented player. I'm not so sure I want him at 49 though, or and I don't, I'd be interested to see if he ultimately goes in the second round.
Yeah, well, you're not going to get him at 102, so if you want him, you're going to take him at 49. That's the way I look at it.
Let's see. Matthew Moslin writes in, David Alex, do you think Sean Davis signing affected the Steelers' willingness to sign Ebron? According to the Steelers Depot article on Compix, Over the Cap says that Davis canceled out Ebron. Davis signed on the 18th with Washington and Ebron. No, the last thing this team does is look and say, oh, well, we lost so-and-so for this contract right here. Well, let's run out and sign Eric Ebron, That's Matthew. That's not how they're going to operate here. Compensatory value is a byproduct of things that, okay, if you get it, fine. If you don't, you don't.
Well said. I agree.
Let's see. What else do we have here? Eric writes in. No, he didn't.
False alarm?
No, it's from it's just spam is what it is. Thank you for all you do. Sarah Corby writes in. Hi, Dave and Alex, long-term subscriber via PayPal. Just want to say thank you for all your hard work and the guys do both on the website and especially the podcast. My escapism from this mad world at the moment, to think that I provide escapism for somebody and I'm no longer 18.
Not even going to go there.
Come on. We'll keep my subscription going even in these tough times. Stay safe and well. Thank you, Mark Corby. He must have wrote this from his wife's email account. Birchington, Kent, England. So thank you for that. I think that's got most of all the. Let me make sure. Go to the second page here. This one from Richard Jameson. This is a cute one. I'm confused by the tagline that starts your show intro. Always limp. No, it's not always limp. It's always lit. He says, always limp, talking Steelers, and now here's Dave and Alex. What does that mean? No, it's lit, L-I-T. We'll talk about the lip is for a different type of podcast here. Also, now that the Steelers have already restructured contracts for just about everybody except Cameron Hayward, how will they clear enough cap space to extend Juju Smith-Schuster and T.J. Watt? Well, they're probably not going to extend Juju and T.J. Watt this offseason. But next off season, obviously there's a chance of that doing that, and also Cameron Hayward. That's going to be an extension with him, not a restructure on him. So Watt, obviously you're going to end up putting you're going to end up picking up the 5th-year option on him. Probably any time we're going to learn about that in the next few weeks. As soon as they're able to do that, we'll hear about Watt's 5th-year option being picked up. Juju is entering the final year of his rookie contract, but there's no sign that they're going to do an extension with him now. So that means potentially next offseason, we could be talking about this same time about the team putting a franchise tag on Juju Smith-Schuster.
Yeah, we'll see. I agree. Probably not going to see any deals done this offseason, but I'm sure they have a plan for the future. Clearly, they were able to get the things they needed to get done this year with all the restructures, and I'm sure they'll have a path to certainly be able to retain TJ Watt and likely Juju Smith-Schuster again. So don't know exactly what the path is going to be, but they'll figure it out.
Explain to the kids what always lit means.
I'm probably the
how do you do, fellow kids?
Yeah, I'm in similar territory. Yeah, it just means we're always keeping it 100. I don't know if that clarifies anything. It just supposed to mean for people who just always. I don't even know how to describe it. Just always excited. I don't know. I'm too old for this stuff. I'm not Juju. Ask Juju what it means.
I always used to be lit.
All right. Yeah, you were hanging out with Tommy Chong.
Always lit. Anyway, I think that's probably a good place to probably end. What do you say?
I would agree, very much so.
All right. Hopefully we provided you some entertainment on this Tuesday. In the meantime, if you'd like to follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot, if you'd like to follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora, follow the show at Terrible Podcast, email the show theterriblepodcast at gmail.com. If you like what we do and you want to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com and hit the donate button, upright navigational bar. Additionally, if you would like an ad-free version of SteelersDepot.com, you can get that by going to SteelersDepot.com and hit the ad-free button in the navigational bar up top there. For $25 for 1 calendar year, you can have an ad-free version of the site. A lot of people are taking advantage of that as well, too. We appreciate all of our supporters throughout the years and time, and especially in this time, and as well. And Alex and I will be back on Friday. So as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.